In a universe full of ideas, we draw lightness from the dark to a place where opposites attract. Right meets left, positive touches negative, sparking an explosion of truth. Because politics makes strange bedfellows.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Strange Bedfellows. What are we up to? Episode 17, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, Rick Walker. How you doing?
Hello, Laurie Spencer.
Hey, it's been a while.
It has.
Been 2 weeks since I last saw you, and a hell of a lot's happened in 2 weeks.
Now that you mention it, yeah.
Uh-huh.
The whole world is blowing up.
I'd like a do-over. Can we just rewind 7 days, go back to last Saturday, and
Oh, you're
start
not going
the
back
clock?
far enough. Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep
Let's go
going.
back thousands of years.
Oh,
Let's go back to 1917 and just rejigger that whole mess in the Middle East, right?
there you go.
Yeah, let's go back and take that Balfour Declaration and tear it up and throw it in the trash. Big mistake.
DeLorean, DMC, 88 miles per hour.
That's it. That's it, buddy. Right on.
Or Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. All we need is a phone booth.
Where could you find a phone booth anymore? They don't exist. They've been wiped off the face of the
See?
earth.
That's where we went wrong, right there.
They never should have got rid of the phone booths.
Nope. What's Superman to do?
It's all been downhill. I swear to God, ever
He's
since
got no
it's
place
all
to
been
change.
downhill.
You can't save the world.
That's why we're in so much trouble. Where the hell is Superman supposed to
Obviously.
change clothes? I mean, really?
Women's washroom.
Oh.
Well, you know, that whole spandex thing. I was
Yeah, you always had
wondering.
to wonder a little bit about Clark Kent. It's a little effeminate, I'm just saying. But supposedly Lois thought he was hot.
Well, the gay guys always get the girls.
I'm just saying.
That's why he never wanted to get married.
That's right. He was a lifelong bachelor.
That's right.
Didn't
Anyway.
he and Lois eventually get married?
They did in the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
finally.
that movie.
Like, what took you so long, guys?
Exactly.
Get a room already, for crying out loud. Well, I brought a great guest tonight for the show. I think you're really going to enjoy getting to know her. Our guest tonight on Strange Bedfellows is Elizabeth Beck, the intrepid, fearless attorney who has, I mean, in her career, and we'll talk about it, she has represented big corporations, and she's also sued big corporations. But probably what she's best known for is suing President Donald Trump before he was president, not once, but twice. And then, of course, she sued the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, in 2016 for screwing Bernie Sanders. And that's a hell of an interesting story. And I believe currently she is suing Elon Musk and Twitter. So we're going to tell you all about that, and we're going to learn about her amazing life. And, of course, her partner in law is her husband, Jared Beck, who can't join us tonight, but we've got Elizabeth, and that's pretty awesome. I'm just going to bring her in right now. Hello, Elizabeth.
I'm not drunk.
I am not drunk.
I'm just having a beer, my first beer for the day. And, sometimes I get kind of excited and people say, is she drunk? Well, fuck you. No, I'm stone cold sober. Can we cuss on this show, or is this like network?
Oh, you can cuss. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course you can.
Oh, thank you so much for that kind introduction. It sounded like you were talking about someone else. I actually, our law firm sued Trump actually three times.
Three? Oh,
Yeah. And
wow.
and it's interesting you talk about representing corporations. When I graduated law school, I didn't have any college debt, but when I graduated law school, I had close on to $100,000 in law school debt. And so I was fortunate enough to get an offer from a law firm called Quinn Emanuel. They're big now. Even then they were big, but they gotten even bigger. They're a Los Angeles firm, and I wanted to go back to LA because that's where my mama was. And they paid real good. And so while I was there, they don't, Quinn Emanuel is your, very typical servicing very large corporations. And so I did that, I want to say, for about a year. And I know some people hate me for it. They think I'm a sellout. Well, you know what? I voluntarily walked away from that salary and that job. All I have to say to those haters who judge me, I'm still paying off my law school debt, by the way.
I believe
all
that.
those haters who say, "Oh, how you're so not pure because you represented corporations back in the day." I'm just like, did anybody ever offer you that kind of a job, and did you walk away from it, or did you actually reject that offer and not take it? Because then I will listen to you, okay? But unless you do that, you have no right to criticize me. All right? I did that.
Well, that's how you become a great lawyer too. My dad was a lawyer. I come from a family of lawyers, and you have to know both sides of the law. I mean, he was a public defender, so were you. He was also a prosecutor and a DA. So, you have to represent corporations so that you know how to sue them later.
Well, I just don't think. I think it's very simplistic to see things in terms of black and white and good and evil.
That's right.
Okay, and there are people that sit around, typing "corporations are evil" on their iPhone. And they can't wait for the next release of their iPhone. Okay, or it bothers me when people in the United States say "eat the rich." It actually makes me cringe so hard. That's a big word these days, isn't it? Cringe.
Cringe.
I have a 10 and 12-year-old, and they use cringe all the time, usually at me, but now I start using it all the time. I just cringe when people say "eat the rich" in the United States, because I'm saying, I think you should walk that back, because you are the rich. You are the rich in this country, and you know what? They're trying to eat you. You don't see that? Why do you think all this shit's happening in this country in the past? Well, I don't know. Jared would say that the real descent happened after JFK was shot on the world stage.
Yeah,
as a great show of force, an open coup, and absolutely no repercussions or consequence. Lottie fucking die. Everybody just starts shopping, and it's just like, when's Black Friday gonna start? And people don't talk about it anymore. But you can't have something like that happen without things going bad. Laura, you talk about your dad being a prosecutor. Anybody in law enforcement will tell you, or a criminologist, if you let a criminal get away with something, they usually strike again.
Of course they will. They always
Very
do.
few will they just walk back. I know Jack the Ripper, he stopped at some point, but that's not usually the case. Criminal does over and over and over until they get caught. So if you assume, and it's so crazy to me, because nowadays a lot of people will acknowledge that JFK getting shot was not a lone gunman.
Right. Yeah. Majority of Americans, over 80%, don't think that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. And
it's so.
And it's been that way a long, long time. And still no answers, right? We're coming up on 60 years next month.
I don't know what people expect. I mean, it's just, there's coups and there's coup. I don't know.
Why do Americans think a coup couldn't happen here?
Assassinations happen here. All sorts of shit happens here. Are you kidding me?
It did happen here.
Man.
And depending on how you feel about the 2020 election, some people say that was a bloodless coup.
Well, I mean, I really don't understand how elections happen in this country. If I were to speculate, I would assume there's a lot of horse trading and bickering behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
But as long as the people in power are kind of on the same page and they kind of trade places once in a while, the thing kind of galumps along. I think the big problem is I think this country's in for a world of hurt in the coming decades. And I don't know if it's karma. I don't know if it's history or anything. I don't think Schadenfreude has any place. People are always like, hey, it's about time. But I think a lot of that comes from an emotional place, because whoever says that they feel aggrieved.
Right.
But I don't know if it's kind of inevitable, just the way it goes. I was having a conversation with someone, and this sounds terrible, but I don't even know if the concept of the United States of America, maybe the way this country was birthed was kind of out of whack.
You mean the revolution?
No, I mean the diversity. I mean the diversity. I mean letting people like me in. Okay?
Which leads me
to why I'm here? Do you know why I'm here? Do you know why the fuck somebody like me is in the United States of America?
I was curious about, you were born in Korea, right?
Yeah.
Where in Korea? Where? Seoul. Right on.
I'll tell
and
you
how did you end up here? I'm curious to know the story.
No.
No,
it was Vietnam.
Really?
It was the American foreign policy, the war in Nam. And, it's like NATO. The U.S. needed allies. And Korea at the time was an incredibly poor country that was basically getting, in turn, raped by China and Japan, these two behemoths, because Japan was a great imperial power. Okay? People forget. Now it's just like a country that makes like really good electronic stuff. And, they're like really weird, like... I don't hate the Japanese, but you got to admit some of their culture is like really quirky.
Right.
Okay. Japan seems very harmless, but that's because they've been castrated, really.
Yeah, we took care of that in 1945.
Yeah, exactly. And Japan tried to eat Korea. Okay. They colonized Korea in the early 20th century, and China's been trying to eat Korea for a while. Korea's like this tiny little country wedged in between the two of them. So they clung to the U.S. The U.S. was like this. So Korea didn't know what to do, wanted to kind of get in the U.S.'s good graces. Okay. Especially after the Korean War.
Exactly.
Okay. My mama said the GIs were the first white people they saw. Well, actually, that's not true. They saw the Jesuits before them. Mm-hmm. And it was just like a mutual boggle fest. It's like, oh my God, look at you. Oh my God, look at you. So they didn't have money to send. They didn't have arms. They were poor, but they had bodies. So my aunt was a nurse and she volunteered to go to Nam. My aunt served in Nam, and I think she was part of a MASH unit. And I think she saw combat.
Wow.
And she and her husband, I don't know what the hell her husband did over there, but he did something real weird with communications. So they go directly from Nam to the U.S. That was their reward.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he starts working for a defense contracting firm, and my aunt becomes a nurse, but they were very traumatized people. She died very young from some weird cancer of the throat. Agent Orange. And so then my aunt starts to sponsor every worthless relative of hers, including my mother. Okay? My mother was a holy terror in Korea, and then she comes to the United States and she's a holy terror here. Oh, good God. That's how I ended up here. I don't even think my mother wanted to come here. But anyway,
how old were you?
I was three.
Oh, okay.
I was 3.
So you don't have any memories at all, I guess, of Korea?
No, but the funny thing is I actually went back to Korea a few years ago, and it was weird because it felt like home. I just segue very seamlessly into that culture.
That's amazing.
Just because I speak the language.
Do you?
Yeah.
Speak the language?
Yeah, my mother taught me well. She was not ashamed of being a Korean. She really wasn't. So that's why I'm here. But if you take a big view of it, it's like the U.S. foreign policy, and I think they do that a lot. I think the United States does a lot of wars, and then they, kind of give immigration as a reward for people.
They do.
And then people come here. But the thing is, you know what they say? Well, Laura, you would appreciate this. I heard this. Somebody told me, how do you climb a fence in Texas? How do you make sure you climb a fence in Texas? You throw your head over it.
Yep.
Because now you don't have a choice.
Exactly. Speaking of that, the neighborhood that I grew up in when I was a kid, we're both Gen Xers. We were talking about that before the show. And as a kid, I have some vague memories of the Vietnam War, kind of when it was winding down. But I grew up in a neighborhood where all of my neighbors, it was like little Korea,
Oh,
because their parents had come here as refugees or with a reward of immigration after the Korean War. And then we brought in many, many more from Vietnam. So all
mm.
my best friends when I was a little kid were Korean and Vietnamese
Oh, that's so
kids.
interesting. In
Yeah.
Oklahoma?
You
Oh,
would
that's
not think you right. You wouldn't
yeah.
expect
There's
that in Oklahoma, but we just opened up. We took in a ton from
mhm.
Korea and Vietnam, and so we've got like, Koreatown. We've got a Vietnamese district here, and there's some of our most successful citizens. They run very successful businesses, fully integrated into the community. At least with my generation, I like to think of Gen X as we were a very lucky generation in that we were the first colorblind generation in so many ways. We were the first who had integrated busing, fully integrated schools and neighborhoods. And as kids, you don't see those differences. All we saw was our parents were all upset, waving protest signs at the bus stop saying, it's terrible to bus these kids together, putting blacks and whites together. Oh my God. And
Mm.
we were like, what? I mean, Shanique was my friend. What the hell, Mom? We didn't understand that sort of thing. It didn't make any sense. And to me, it still doesn't. And I hate to
Yeah.
see the stupidity of racism rearing its ugly head again. I hate to see the divisions happening in our society. And I know it's all by design. They're doing
Yeah.
this on purpose to divide us. And I say, as a Gen Xer, not going to happen. It's impossible for our generation. They're going to have to wait until we die off. And then if the younger generations want to fight amongst themselves, that's their problem, but not on my watch.
I think people I think in a land of plenty, people are very um, inclined to coexist peacefully.
Of course.
And a lot of divisions, you can create divisions within one family too. And I think divisions become very exacerbated when people start fighting over resources.
Exactly. Like, well, I mean, look at the Middle East right now.
Right.
There's a perfect example of that. So I wanted to ask you, because I just saw some breaking news come across the wire that looks like the ground invasion of Gaza is imminent, happening as we speak. And
Uh-huh.
I was curious to get your thoughts on this whole situation over there. What do you think?
I actually don't follow politics
Smart.
since 2016, but it's really a cop-out because Jared does follow politics and he's not here because he is permanently indisposed.
Understood.
He thinks that, but he consumes a lot of information very quickly. And his thoughts is, I thought it was very enlightening, is Iran. The U.S. goes to war with Iran. That's the end game.
Is that the bigger agenda? I mean, we've been trying to whip up a war with Iran for more than 40 years.
Yeah.
Certain elements of our government really want that war with Iran, and it sounds suicidal, about as dumb as going to war against Russia or China.
It's just how all empires fall, is all these wars that are opening up. I mean, and the thing is, you can't say no because you kind of get yourself in this pickle. So there's Ukraine, right?
Ukraine? I didn't know there was still a war in Ukraine. It seems like it ended this week. We haven't heard a fucking thing.
I know Jared said it's kind of over. I'm just an empty vessel. I don't have any thoughts of my own. I just parrot my husband. I'm sorry.
I should let Rick Walker jump in here. He's been dying to get a
He
question
was bored. He's just like, look at these women gabbing. I'm sorry. That was so sexist of me.
I always try to listen more than I talk.
He does.
It keeps me out of trouble. largely.
I always interrupt people and talk, and I never listen. That might be why I'm always getting in trouble.
Well, I'm very interested to kind of hear about these cases that you've brought over the years.
You're Canadian.
I am. You can
A
tell.
boot. I heard that a boot.
I can run, but I'm given away by my accent all the time, so I can't hide. A.
I make fun of the way he talks. He makes fun of my southern accent. So there you go.
But we're keenly interested in all things American up here. I'm very Americanized. I'm only an hour from the Windsor-Detroit border, so yeah, I'm very Americanized.
Except for the accent.
Yeah.
Can't fix
Well,
that.
you know, Canada and the U.S. very intertwined. Well, you know, well, I have to say my career took some interesting twists and turns. I don't know. Met my husband.
Curious why you went into law. I'm always curious what attracts someone to become a lawyer.
I don't have any lawyers in my family, but I had a lawyer as a kid. Remember when I told you that my mother was a holy terror?
Yeah.
Oh shit! She got arrested in California, went to prison.
Oh damn.
Yeah. So I was 9, and I got myself a lawyer on California taxpayer dime. So I had an early experience with the judicial system.
I see.
It was not a negative experience, I will say that.
Is that what made you want to be a public defender?
Possibly. I think I wanted to be a public defender. I just wanted to try it out, just to see what it was like. I really liked the first public defender's office I interned at. It was in Compton. Do you guys remember Night Court?
I do.
That show? Oh my God, that office was like Night Court.
Yeah.
Just everybody had such a strong personality. Everybody was very, very different. It was really funny there. It was fun. I really
Well, imagine being a public defender in Compton, girl. Damn. I bet you were busy.
You know, I think you have to be a certain type of person to be able to do that with a smile on your face and get up every morning and do it, because it's just a never-ending slog.
Yeah.
You know, and I think in general, public defense, in many ways, I think a lot of government jobs can be never-ending slogs. You have to be sort of equipped to deal with that type of work. You know, it's just
Yeah, you got to love the people, because if you don't, you have no business in a government job, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I think it has to sort of make logical sense, but I think that whole thing is breaking down because
they hate us.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I don't know where things went wrong. I really don't. I read Gideon's Trumpet as a kid. I really liked that book about you know, the case that established the public defender system for all crimes that could bring jail time. Gideon Wainwright was a drifter. He stole a couple of packs of cigarettes, and he wrote this pro se petition for a lawyer. He was just the sorriest person you ever met, but he just believed in the right to counsel. And this was back in the day. It was the 60s or 70s. Gideon Wainwright.
Yeah.
So
Gideon versus Wainwright. Sorry.
Talking about law, you've talked about Jared. I want to know what your thoughts are with regard to all of the lawfare against Trump. Are we witnessing some sort of political theater? Is this stuff real? Is there anything that will actually come of this? What are we witnessing?
I mean, I don't know. George Webb. You guys know George Webb?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is he? He's a retired software salesman, apparently. New York Times calls.
I don't know him personally, but I've watched a lot of his videos.
He claims it's all theater.
Mm-hmm.
He also told me a lot of other crap.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff he says is pretty out there.
Some of it makes sense.
But it does seem to me, obviously, that they're using the courts, or I might say abusing the courts to, the Biden administration's trying to lock up his opponent. It seems very banana republic to me.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be something if Trump became president? What do you guys think about that?
From prison?
No, president becomes president.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing, is it's like everything is so strange today. Some people think he still is the president. Or I've been hearing people say that they think he's not the president, but is still the commander in chief. That's another thing that's out there. And I've seen people present documentation with executive orders to support their claims that are very detailed. And a lot of people are buying into this stuff. And if you go far enough down that rabbit hole, it actually starts to make sense. It scares me. And you're a lawyer, so you tell me, who is the president? Help bring me back to reality.
I would say it doesn't really matter.
Oh, that doesn't help me. Now it's worse. Thank you for that.
No, it doesn't really matter.
Oh my God.
It only has. But I think so. Obviously, Biden is president. Not a. A lot of people are unhappy with that, but he has been declared. Just
right.
But wouldn't it be something if Trump won next year? What do you think would happen, guys? Right. What do you think is going to happen if that happened?
Oh, Lord.
What do you guys think?
I don't know. I mean, they predicted chaos, unrest, civil war. The first time he won the election, they said it was the end of America. And
yeah, I remember.
It wasn't. It just wasn't.
No. I remember that talking head on MSNBC was sobbing on air. What's her name?
Yes. Was it Rachel?
Rachel Maddow.
Crying.
Listen to us. I'm like, shut up, bitch.
Well, here's what. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you, before Trump became president, you sued him twice. Although you just corrected me.
I sued a lot of people. Okay, I sued a lot of people, hundreds and hundreds.
But it wasn't
of people.
Lawfare, and that's why I want to unpack.
I don't even know what lawfare is. I think lawfare is when you sue somebody
maliciously.
Well, I've been a victim of lawfare. That's absolutely true.
Right. It's a thing.
It's still ongoing. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that turns out.
Right. I mean,
but so
litigation.
Lawsuits. You get bitten by a dog, your neighbor's dog. And you shoot the dog, but now you have very bad hospital bills and you need stitches. You sue him for the hospital bills. He countersues you because you shot his dog. Okay, that's a bona fide dispute. Okay, where does it go? You gotta take some evidence, man. Is that a mutt or a purebred? Was the gate open? What happened? That's a real dispute over two people who are very upset at each other.
And from what I know of the lawsuits you brought against Trump, they were legitimate lawsuits. I had
real clients. So I mean, the thing was, I represented many, many people. But we quit our very well-paying jobs back in 2007 to open up our very small shop. And I still remember the first case we took. Our first client, I don't know how he found us. His name was Hugo. I'll leave out his last name. Mr. Hugo had left his employer, an import-export business in Miami, and he wanted to start his own business, and his boss just wasn't having it. Okay, and his boss was threatening him and hounding him and harassing him, and he was this young guy, showed up at our very small office, and he said, I've been talking this over with all my family, and I really need to do something about it. I need to get this monkey off my back. And so we looked at his documents. There was a non-compete, but it was very restrictive. The boss was obviously being a jerk. And so we looked at him, and I said, okay, well, write a letter for $350. And I could see him thinking real hard because he never hired a lawyer before. And then he reached in his pocket and he says, I got to get the monkey off my back. And he gives me $350. And I think Jerry and I spent like 4 days on that letter. We polished it until it was gleaming, and then we sent it off, and then his boss we scared him off. That was our first case. And then our second case was Jackie. I won't say her last name, but she was getting sued by some credit card company for some credit card debt. And I'm like, you know what? Let's bring it. Let's go through this and see what we can hash out. And we showed up, and we wanted to give her a vigorous defense. And the other lawyer looked at the two of us, and she had like 100 of these cases. And she just instantly looked extremely tired because we had nothing better. We had no cases. You know, these were the first cases coming in the door.
Yeah.
So she just looked at us. She looked extremely tired, and she just kind of dropped our case. And so we worked our way up from there. Now, what happened was we're sitting around open for business. Okay, we're just open for business, and in 2007, the real estate market crashed. And coincidentally, South Florida was ground zero for real estate investors. Okay. Everybody and their uncle around the world was into flipping real estate in South Florida. And then the market crashed. And so it was a cascading effect. Okay. All the shit was running downhill. Okay. The banks, the developers, the subcontractors, and guess who was at the very bottom? Okay, maybe the solo plumber, but the person also at the bottom was the real estate investor, because they were just individual people
individual investors, right?
Oh yeah. God, these people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point in criticizing them. Like, what do you mean what do you mean you took your retirement money without telling your wife and put a down payment on a condo? But that's what people were doing.
Yeah.
Because it was FOMO. It was fear of missing out. Don't fall into FOMO. Don't do it. And so they needed legal representation, but they were terrified of paying more money to lawyers. So we were like, oh, what the hell? We'll take it on contingency because we have time. So we did that. And we did a lot. I just want to point out, we did a lot of those cases. Okay, a lot. But just a handful was against Donald Trump because he was developing a lot of buildings down here. And
exactly.
there's 3 in Sunny Isles. There's just a bunch.
And this was in 2011 was the first time that you sued Trump?
I think it might have been before then. My memory's hazy, but
yeah.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Tell me why.
Mr. Taglieri needed representation. He was a prior client of ours. He went on, Mr. Taglieri, Jackie Taglieri. He's retired now, but he spent a big chunk of his life running an Italian restaurant in Boston's Little Italy. One of the best, apparently very highly regarded. He lived upstairs. I think his nephew runs it now. Anyway, he took his money, and he bought several nice condos down here. I think maybe 1 or 2. He's a snowbird. He's a classic Northeastern snowbird. But he bought a bunch, and I had represented him in one condo called the Ocean Marine Yacht Club, which was a real big shit show. To put it in a nutshell, this was a beautiful high-rise condominium on the Intracoastal in Hollandale Beach. It was called the Ocean Marine Yacht Club. It had a marina attached to it, which was a great selling point.
Sounds swanky.
It was swanky, and people came from all over the world to put deposits. Well, they never got the marina because the doofus developer from Chicago didn't know how things work down here. And he thought just because the mayor of Hallandale Beach gave him a key to the city, he had it made in the shade. But then the environmentalists at the, what's that government agency? Army. No, the Army Corps of Engineers and another. Okay. They started scuba diving down there, and they came up and they took off their goggles like seagrasses, manatees, no marina here. And you have to make all the agencies happy. So there was no marina, and everybody freaked the hell out. Because you take away the marina, it's just another condo building. So I represented him in that development. And then he contacted me and says, I got another project. I'm hearing rumors. I'm like, what rumors, Mr. Taglieri? He says, they're not going to finish the building. And lo and behold, those rumors, there was something to it because the market was starting to crater.
That's right.
And it was Chorus Bank. Chorus Bank out of Chicago had loaned a lot of money to these developers down in South Florida. And then Chorus Bank failed and everything went into receivership. But we can talk about the 2007 debacle till the cows come home because it was bad. It was really bad. There was a lot of foreclosures too. Anyway, so I represented him in the Trump case. And Jared had written about, the law as it pertains to these buildings, and a lot of lawyers referenced it. And I think some people who were Googling, how do I get out of my real estate contract, blah, blah, blah. They found his blog, so they started contacting us. So that's how we ended up taking the Trump case.
That was a class action suit, right? You were representing.
We captioned it as a class action suit, but a class action isn't a class action until the judge says it's a class action.
True.
So the judge never said it was a class action. The judge was Kathleen Williams, who to this day, I don't know why she was the way she was, but I'm not going to talk shit about her because I don't want to get disbarred.
That's right. You still have a license to keep down there. But I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to run a couple of clips, actually. This is from a few years back, since we were talking about Trump and lawfare. Just to put some context on this, this is an interview that you did with MSDNC. Oh, excuse me. I mean MSNBC with Ari.
Was that the cat one?
That's the cat one.
Oh, yeah, Sugar. You know Nico House?
Yes.
Nico House gave me that cat.
Really?
Did you know this? Yeah.
No,
Nico still has the mama. Nico's mama cat has
Aw.
like a litter, and he said, I have the perfect cat for you. And that was Sugar.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Is Sugar still around?
Sugar is still around, and he is
love
so
it.
bloodthirsty.
And
He's a little killer.
If Bob Mueller's investigators question Donald Trump on the Russia probe, Trump will be facing someone who is very familiar with investigations, but so is he. In fact, USA Today reports Trump's been involved in over 4,000 of them. And for a tiny fraction of those, they've gotten to the point where Trump himself has been deposed under oath, sometimes displaying a very different side from his public persona.
Yes. I don't have my glasses. I mean, I am at a disadvantage because I didn't bring my glasses. This is such small writing.
All right, well, if the witness can't actually physically read the language,
I
that's
mean,
the problem.
it's very small writing. I can make it out. Do you want me to try?
In other depositions, Trump reportedly has also been fiery and aggressive. What we don't know is what potentially he would do showing up to a Bob Mueller interview. Which Trump would we see? What strategies could he use? And out of this tiny group of lawyers in the whole country who've questioned Trump under oath. Joining me now is attorney Elizabeth Lee Beck, one of the few lawyers in the nation who has personally deposed Donald Trump. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for making the time.
What did you learn about Donald Trump out of the public spotlight when you deposed him?
Having deposed him twice and cross-examined him in a trial in front of a jury, at each time he behaved very, very drastically different.
Let's walk through the depositions. There was one in 2011 where
Correct.
he said to you about your questions as an attorney with obviously a professional role to play. He said he thought your questions were stupid. I think you're asking very stupid questions. And then he said at one point to you, do you even know what you're doing? Let's go ask the questions.
Correct. I remember that deposition very well. The deposition culminated right before lunch break with him storming out of there. He threw a fit. He basically threw a fit and he stormed out of there. I can tell you, I watched people react to him. Okay, and they're very, very easily intimidated. I saw lawyers who were unable to ask a question. They got a frog in their throat. They couldn't talk.
You're saying that the way he lashed out at people, in a sense, worked.
Oh, it absolutely works. I can tell you this. I can tell you that to the extent that you think he's like this all the time, he's not. And then when you're ready, we can talk about the other instances.
Yeah, so tell me about how he changed in the later deposition.
Well, the second deposition, he was completely and utterly docile.
What do you account for that? Do you think that he is a multidimensional person, or you think he was just trying different strategies?
I couldn't tell you, but I do know that if he lashed out at people, I can, based on my observations from watching people interact with him in the room, I can completely see, yes, even lawyers turn into a puddle.
Wow. I mean, that's so fascinating because we see him in so many other contexts where there are not actual rules. A deposition has rules and those individuals are there, but you're saying the brash style can work. Here he was when this all did become public, speaking about you in an interview and attacking you. Take a listen.
She's a terrible attorney. She lost her case to me. In fact, I won legal fees. She's got a terrible reputation, in my opinion. She's got just a terrible reputation. Other lawyers have called me up, say, well, how bad she was. I beat her so badly. She's a vicious, horrible person.
The case reached a settlement. Is what he said there in that clip accurate?
What do you think? No.
What do I think?
You think I'm a horrible person? You think I'm a horrible person?
Well, I'm meeting you over the TV today. I don't know.
No, look. You have to understand that when the New York Times contacted me, because they combed through the deposition transcript and they wanted to talk about the lawsuit, I didn't run away and hide under the covers like a lot of lawyers do. They won't talk about it. I talk about everything, okay? You can talk to me about my cat. I'll talk about my cat. But the point was because it was in the primary. It's Sugar.
Nice. Okay, that's a beautiful name for a cat.
I know. We got him as a kitten.
Oh.
He's really sweet. He's like Spider-Man. He climbs. Anyway, sorry.
Don't be sorry. I mean, you said, this is what I do. I ask questions. You mentioned the cat. I asked a question. Let me ask you another question, which is, the president right now has lawyers negotiating if and how he might testify before Bob Mueller's Russia probe. As one of the few lawyers who has questioned him, what did you learn about his responses that you think could be relevant to the way those investigators question him?
I can tell you that under questioning, if he's not pitching a fit, he actually answers questions very directly.
I guess one question to end on then is, do you think this is a person who has a firm grasp on the difference between exaggeration, puffery, truth, and lies, and thus maybe misleads less under an oath setting than other settings because he knows there are consequences?
I don't necessarily know if he answers questions differently under oath than in other settings.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I've only questioned him under oath.
Right.
I've only questioned him under oath.
Well, look, this is
why. But I can tell you this.
Okay.
When he's not under oath, he's nicer.
Interesting. Well, you have been in the room with him, and that's why we wanted to hear from you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
I don't know where Lori went. Well, I think you're a nice person, just for the record.
My dog likes me. My dogs like me.
It's interesting, though, the comments made about Trump's personality, the way he intimidates people. Why were you able to get to not be affected by that as much?
Maybe because I'm not a boomer.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just like, who is this dude? I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that would make me just go, I can't believe I'm in the same room with you. He's not one of them.
Yeah, well, you don't strike me as someone who is easily intimidated. But Trump overall.
That's because I usually wear brown pants. Did you get that joke?
Yeah.
The brown. I can't tell if I'm scared because I'm wearing brown pants.
Oh my! Wow,
that was a good one.
So. All of that stuff. I mean, that's all real estate stuff. It didn't even seem to hurt him in the end.
Yeah, I can't believe he's bragging about winning that trial. like he's taken credit for it. That's so rich. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is, it's interesting because he has such a strong personality. And so I think that's an asset when you're running somebody in a campaign because a lot of it is about personality.
You know, it's been interesting to beyond interesting to sort of watch the evolution of Trump from 2016 to today. I think the whole tone of his campaign has changed. Everything around him, the tone has changed. There's so much QAnon energy around him now. It seems to almost dominate. And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because it's just, I just don't know what to make of it. I don't even know how to ask the question, honestly, because it's just so surreal. It's like everything around him since losing the last election, it's all been about questioning the legitimacy of government. It's about eroding public confidence in public institutions.
Yeah, well, you got to do that if you're going to break up the union.
Do you think that's what the objective is?
I think so. It's a very unwieldy country. I mean, you would admit with me, Rick, that there's a lot of interests that are embedded in this country that are not purely native, and even with native interests could possibly be at odds. And so, you got to split things up. They're not getting along anymore.
Right.
So, I mean, honestly, I don't know if people know this, but apparently a few years ago, Hawaii passed a law saying that Hawaii independence shall be left to Hawaiians. They passed a law, I think. So if Hawaii wants to secede from the Union, it's apparently fairly easy for them to do that. Nobody knows.
Aware of that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And then Lahaina, it's interesting because Lahaina, we all know what happened there, is the historical seat of the Kingdom of Hawaii. So for Native Hawaiians, Lahaina has a great importance. So the fact that Lahaina was decimated, it could create a resurgence of Native Hawaiian patriotism. It could.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember I went to New Zealand, and they had the local museum there had a presentation on Gallipoli, and out of Gallipoli was born New Zealand national identity. Before then, they just thought of themselves as far-flung British people. And it took Gallipoli for Australia and New Zealand to say, we are New Zealanders, we are Australians, we are our own. It was a birth of a country in blood and massacre. So there's definitely precedent for how to get people to move in a certain way.
Right.
What a shit show. And also, Hawaii is very blue. And wouldn't it be funny if the Democrats tried to break up the union again, because they were the ones who did it the first time? People forget, But
very interesting. Can we move on and talk a little bit about this lawsuit with Elon Musk? I'm not familiar with what you're doing there.
Oh, we're still banned on Twitter. Jared Beck and I are banned on Twitter, and I don't know why. And so we filed a lawsuit to get ourselves unbanned. And actually, their lawyers showed up, and I said, why are we banned? So you would think that once we filed the lawsuit, they would go unban us, but we're still banned. And so I said to their lawyers, I said, why am I banned? And you know what his response was? I'm like, no, I'm like, no, I don't. Okay, why don't you enlighten me, you fuckers? So I don't really know why, because I find it, Jared was ranting, I want to say a few months ago, about how they reinstated Kanye West, who said he would go jihad on the Jews. They reinstated Laura Loomer, who is a very polarizing figure. And I'm not here to throw Laura Loomer under the bus. I had her over for dinner. Yeah, I did. Laura Loomer. Okay. And we didn't talk about politics, actually. Laura Loomer does not put down her phone.
Really?
So she's always like, she's a millennial that's like constantly like on her phone. So, I'm sure, some people are like, oh my God, you're such a fascist, Elizabeth Beck. Well, go fuck yourself. I had a lot of people over my house. A lot of people.
So you have no idea why they banned you?
I think it's because I think it's because we say things that they don't want people to hear.
No. Come on, you.
And this was 4 years ago, right? This was obviously before Elon bought Twitter when they banned you. And it was back when they were censoring everybody
they were censoring everybody because Twitter was an arm of the DNC and they were censoring us and Jared.
Yep.
But
we never did Elon bought the platform and he was like, I'm going to give amnesty to everybody who was banned unless you violated the terms of service, blah, blah, blah. But you're an attorney and you obviously wouldn't violate the terms of service. So you're still banned for your political speech. Yeah.
We're still banned. I don't know. Maybe I'll just keep my advice to myself instead of sharing it because I'm not allowed to share it.
Yeah. So the case is still ongoing, right? They're delaying and trying to.
It's in federal court. Let me tell you about federal court. Federal judges can do whatever the fuck they want. And I'm sure if any federal judge hears that, they're like, that's damn fucking straight. I can. Yeah, no, you can't do anything about it. It's like lifetime appointment. So if they want to sit on that thing until they die, they can do that. And as a matter of fact, that has happened.
Literally. Yeah. And I'm sure that Elon, and he could just unban you. I mean, if he unbanned you guys, would you drop the lawsuit?
I have to talk to my husband about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of impact has that had on you, the ban?
Well, I was just like, well, I'm thinking, is there anything I can do about this? No. Okay, then I'm not going to worry about it. But it really got Jared Beck riled up. He feels things a lot more. I don't know. I think he drank the America's a Democracy Kool-Aid for more generations than I have. So it hits him a lot harder. He's like, I can't believe this. And I'm like, what do you expect? That's just the way the world is, honey. There's nothing new under the sun. He's like, no. So he filed a lawsuit and dragged me along with it. And it's pending somewhere in California.
I thought it was in Florida.
It got transferred over there.
Ah, I see.
There's a judge in California that apparently does a lot of Twitter cases, and Twitter apparently loves this judge so much they try to get all of the Twitter cases in front of this judge. He must be their guy. He's I'm not saying anything. I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying they just seem to really like this judge. Mm-hmm. So they got it booted over there.
That makes a lot of sense because all of the censorship cases that I know of, in fact, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. right now is suing Google and he's suing YouTube for censoring him and Facebook and Meta. And they always want to put it in front of a California judge who's an appointee of Biden and who's friendly to Silicon Valley. Kind of sounds like that's what's happening with your case also against Elon.
I had a I'm going to say something. When we sued the DNC on behalf of Bernie Sanders reporters, it was very, very suppressed. But the news did go out in certain channels, and I got a lot of phone calls from a lot of people. And I had people visit my law office, okay? They just showed up at the door. They just told me stuff, and I got a call from a gentleman. And he was a judge in the federal system somewhere in the country. I won't say who. And he tells me that, sometimes Sometimes a judge will get a call and it's like the FBI, and the FBI will just tell the judge how to rule. And the judge is like, okay.
It really does happen. It does.
Yeah, that's just the way it is, you know? And a journalist called me up. She was a journalist. She had worked for the UN, and she said, do you know how much a human body is worth on the open market, a healthy body? And I said, what? And she's like, $1 million. Cut it up like a cow. Organs. Whoa. Organs. Yeah. And it made sense to me because I had done a case on organ against the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville involving an organ transplant gone bad. And I know how difficult it is to get a life-saving transplant organ when you need one. Yeah. It's incredibly complicated. You have to get on this list. And when an organ is available, you have to be in a particular window of health. You can't be too healthy and you can't be too sick. And by golly, during that window, an organ better show up. Otherwise, you're out of luck. And that's, you know, so just let's just think about this. If you have a lot of money at your disposal and you are used to getting your way, and you are about to die and you could live if you got yourself an organ, you think they're going on that list and twiddling their thumbs? Or you think they're going to get a fucking organ somewhere in the world?
And you better be vaccinated. I think, Rick, is that still the case in Canada? Do you still have to be vaccinated with the COVID vaccine to get a transplant? Yes. Wow. That's just so wrong.
Well, you know, you gotta measure it. You gotta, you know, it's just like, you want this, then you gotta give me this, you know? And it's just like, do I really need a liver that bad? Yeah, okay, give me the shot. That's just the way it is.
Right.
You know? So, you know. So.
Well, that was the creepiest thing I think we've ever discussed on this program.
Oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the tip of the iceberg for me.
That is truly saying something, Rick Walker. All right. I want to get to the DNC fraud lawsuit because everybody in the chat's like, ask her about the DNC fraud lawsuit. And the reason I want to dig into it tonight, as you know, or you might know, I'm a volunteer on the RFK Jr. campaign, been a longtime friend of Bobby's for 16 years. But I was very upset.
I feel really bad for him. Do you know that?
Well, so do I.
I mean, really bad. Well, because his daddy was shot, his uncle was shot, and he was basically orphaned as a young kid.
Yes. Along with 10 other siblings, man. They had a family of 11 kids.
Yeah, I think he was kind of flung out to be on his own. Yep. He acted out. So, you know, I mean, it's amazing that he probably went through some very dark period in his life.
He did. He went through 14 years of hardcore heroin addiction.
Oh, there you go. I was going to say, I mean, I don't know too much about him. I just read up the Wikipedia article, but yeah, so drug abuse, that would make sense.
Yeah. But he's been sober now for 40 years and he's made obviously a great success of his life and has been suing polluters and corrupt government officials now for 4 decades and finally is running for president. But I was disappointed when he ran as a Democrat. And a lot of us were saying, Bobby, there's no way you're not going to have a shot in this party. You don't align.
He's not going to have a shot anyway. You know? But what he is going to do is he's going to suck away votes from Biden and possibly lead to a Trump presidency, thereby leading to a breakup of the union. And honestly, if I were him, and I'm not, if I were him, I'd be like, I don't fucking give a shit. I will. Okay? Like, really. Really?
You know what he said this week? He declared his independence. He left the Democratic Party. He's now running as an independent candidate. And, he said to all the people who say, is he going to take more votes from Biden? Is he going to take more votes from Trump? He said, my aim is to take votes from both of them. You know?
Right. Well, I don't know why he gave Bertie credit for the lawsuit that Jared and I.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I have a theory on that.
On that one.
That's because he's part of the elite. he's a certain character of the elite circles, and Jared and I, you know, people contact us once in a while just to see what we think, but we're not part of that world.
That's why I like you.
I guess
You're
we
real
could have been.
Yeah, but you chose a different path.
We did.
Yeah.
We did choose a different path, and I'm sitting here, and I can say that I answer to no one.
How's poverty?
I'm not poor. I'm not poor.
How you liking it so far?
I used to be poor. I used to be really poor.
Well, I like talking to honest lawyers. We had an honest lawyer on here last week, Tyler Nixon, who, had every opportunity to make the big bucks with big law firms and decided instead that he wanted to be a lawyer for the people. That's how I see you and Jared and the work that you've done as attorneys. So, you're not going to get stinking filthy rich doing that kind of legal work, but we need you, and we need a lot more lawyers like you. And so I'm
not really inclined to, I don't know if I said this, but I'm not really practicing law anymore. I'm doing.
Yeah. You said you were kind of laying low.
Yeah, I'm laying low. I have other things going on. I have a lot of other matters going on. I keep my law license active. I'm really not into it anymore. I'm very angry. I'm extremely angry.
Why?
I'm angry at people who fucked us over. Okay, and I have a list. And I've been praying to God to kill them. And a few have already died, so I'm going to stop praying to God.
Oh, no.
I am going to stop praying to God because maybe my negative energy is affecting things. Okay?
Well, I know that.
But, I know that I can't fix other people's problems until I fix my own, until I feel like my world is righted. And it's a little bit out of kilter right now because of all the people that fucked us over. And thinking that they can get away with it and thinking that it was funny, haha, at the time. Okay? But I love cold cuts. All right? And I love things that are served cold. And I will taste it before I die.
Did all that
makes me very happy to think about it.
Did that snowball effect begin with the DNC fraud lawsuit?
No, it started with the Trump case.
Really?
Actually. Yeah,
which
because
one?
that we did the trial. We did the Trump trial 2 years before he became president.
Yeah.
Of course, at the time, I had no idea. And so sitting here today, and the client that I represented in that case, Deer Valley, he refused to pay his bill, and so I had to sue that company. It's run by a guy named J. Michael Goodson, and I had to sue him for not paying the bill, and that still is going on.
Wow.
It's like 10 years.
Good Lord.
Okay. Because the court system is just unwilling to, I don't know. I just don't know why they're unwilling to like resolve it. It's clearly just an unpaid bill, but maybe it's because the guy on the other side, J. Michael Goodson, the law library at Duke University is named after him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
he's always the rich clients who don't pay their bills.
He's a big Democratic donor too.
Yep.
I didn't even know this at the time. Okay. So yeah, I have a fucking axe to grind. So we're done. We're done. Sorry, we're taking ourselves out of service.
That's tragic. I hate to hear it because there are good
Why?
people out there who need good lawyers. They need honest lawyers like you. But I understand your reasons.
People only say that because they just like, oh shit, that means I can't use her services. Yeah, it's like people only say that because they're I don't know. I the older I get, the less I don't know. The older I get, the more I realize that the older I get, the more I like animals.
Me too. Me too. I like my pets more than I like most humans, which is sad but true. I got 3 cats. I got a whole family of them, and they're all exactly alike. They're all solid black. So this is their season of year. This time of year when it's Halloween season, I just kind of put them in the window, and they save me a fortune on decorations.
Oh, that's funny. Want to hear what I have? Oh, it's going to make you.
Well, you still got Sugar the cat, right?
Oh, it's
What
gonna
else
make you
got?
so jealous. This is gonna make you so jealous.
Yeah.
I got goats.
Goats.
I got, and the billy goat lets me pet him, Marshmallow. He's so gentle.
Wow.
Bottle baby goat. Bottle horns like this. Looks like he can kill you, but so gentle with me. I got sheep.
Really?
I got turkeys. I got guinea fowl. I don't know if you know guinea fowl.
Yeah.
I got chickens. I got geese. Geese are sons of bitches. I got
They
Sugar
are.
the cat. I got 2 dogs. I got 2 hamsters. I got 2 parakeets that fly around the house, free shitting everywhere.
I'm dead.
I got 3 puffer fish back there.
Puffer fish. Man.
Yeah, they're small. They're small. I got an angelfish downstairs. And you know, I used to have crabs, these red claw crabs. They sold them at Petco. I'm like, what is that? They're like, they're crabs. I'm like, are they freshwater? They're like, yes, ma'am. I'm like, I'll take 2. So I used to do this trick on people. I would tell them, I need to tell you something. And they would say, what? And I would say, I have crabs. Just to
Oh, we lost
Oh,
her.
did she unplug? I think we lost her. Oh no. She was laughing so hard she unplugged her computer, I think.
Yeah. Digital overload.
Oh my Lord. Well, she'll probably find her way back in. here in a
Well,
minute.
this has really not been the kind of interview I thought it was going to be. We've been talking
right.
about corpses, black market organs from and crabs.
Woo! And pet goats.
This has been a colorful interview.
With Elizabeth Beck, you have to expect the unexpected.
I'm getting the unexpected.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, there was, and I wanted to ask her the story. Hopefully she'll find her way back in. But you might remember this, Rick, because it was a big deal during Trump's first presidential campaign back in 2015. It was all over the news. Do you remember that there was one of these real estate cases in the middle of the deposition? She had asked for a break because she just had a baby and she was breastfeeding, right? And I don't know if you recall this. It made huge headlines at the time because Trump tried to make fun of her for it. But she had asked the court for a break so that she could go to a private little room, you know, off to the side of the court so she could use her breast pump and you know, pump food for her baby. And Trump and his team, I believe they were the ones behind it. And hopefully I'll get a chance to ask her. But, you know, they kind of made that public and they were trying to shame her as, you know, somehow being uncouth, breastfeeding her baby in the middle of the courtroom. Trump called her gross and all that sort of thing for just doing what women do when they've had a baby. Do you remember that?
I don't.
No? Oh, it was a big story at the time. Some of our folks in the chat might remember that. But yeah, it was, and you know, it was this whole kerfuffle, if you will. And it led to a national conversation about breastfeeding in public for women, right? That's kind of what started the conversation, believe it or not. Elizabeth just texted me and said that she's going to try and exit the studio and reconnect.
Okay.
We lost her there for a few minutes. But I thought the whole damn thing was just so interesting. And while we're waiting for her to reconnect, I'm going to play you a little clip. This is an interview that she did in 2017 about the DNC fraud lawsuit that gives you the background on it, what it's all about. And also it's important to bear in mind that during that time, she was, and her husband and others in her law firm were literally afraid for their lives. They petitioned the court for a restraining order, order of protection. They were getting all kinds of threats. And if you remember, they filed the suit in the summer of 2016, and Seth Rich had just been killed under those murky and mysterious circumstances. And also, her process server in the case turned up dead under mysterious circumstances. I'll let her explain, folks. We'll play you this clip, and we'll let Elizabeth tell you while we wait for her to reconnect. Here we go.
I'm Alicia Powell. I'm a reporter with WorldNet Daily, and we are talking with Mrs. Elizabeth Beck. And you are filing a lawsuit against the Democratic National Committee. Can you tell us why? What prompted this lawsuit?
The lawsuit was filed actually about a year ago, believe it or not. And we're still in the early stages. That's how long lawsuits take. They say the wheels of justice grind slowly, and they indeed do. It's on behalf of three groups of people. One group are folks who donated to the campaign for Bernie Sanders, one of the Democratic candidates for presidency, and he lost in the primaries, Secretary Clinton. And the second group are people who donated funds to the DNC, and the third group is the group of registered Democrats. So why are we trying to represent these folks in court? Well, last year, I don't know who this person is, but he goes by the handle of Gucci for 2.0. He released some documents showing that the primary race was not what it appeared to be, which is, you know, you run people and people vote, and it's supposed to be fair and even-handed. I don't know, like any other race, like a horse race, you know? But the documents show that that was not the case, that the Democratic National Committee, which is the organization that runs the Democratic Party, did not run the primaries in a fair and impartial manner, and this was evidenced by the documents that were released by Gucci for 2.0. So we filed that lawsuit, and then after we filed that lawsuit, WikiLeaks released further documents showing that the primary was rigged. Last month, in April 25th, gosh, how time flies. Yeah. On April 25th, the court held a three and a half hour hearing on the DNC's motion to dismiss. Now, we sued the DNC and we sued its former chairperson, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So I'm going to call them the defendants. So the defendant's lawyer at the hearing stood up in court, and he actually came out and said that we the party, we feel that it is legally our right to go into a back room and pick the candidate that way. We didn't do it that way. Well, we could, but this was a revelation to the voters to have that said openly, because you have to understand that the charter, the DNC, the Democratic Party's own charter, says that it will run the races in a fair and even-handed manner. And Congresswoman, Chairwoman Wasserman Schultz said on national TV that they are not biased. So you have it straight from the horse's mouth. You have it in black and white on a piece of paper. I guess none of that means anything. So the lawsuit is based on fraud. So the concept of fraud is very, very old. It's old. The concept of fraud is older than our Constitution. Okay, it goes back centuries, and it basically says if you lie to somebody and you steal from them, that's a crime. At least you can sue them for it, right? You lie to get money out of somebody, then you're on the hook. So the Democratic Party made a statement, very, very in absolute terms, that they were running a fair primary. And it looks like that hadn't been the case.
So they admitted, the DNC the lawyers representing the Democratic National Committee, that they are entitled to basically choose their own candidates and rig the election.
They have admitted, well, they would probably disagree with you. Now I'm speculating here. You'd have to get it directly from their lawyers, but they would probably disagree that choosing a candidate in a backroom deal is the equivalent to rigging. Now, I'm sure there are many voters that disagree with that, but that's their position. They're saying it's completely legal. They're entitled to do it. Doesn't matter what they put in the charter, I guess.
Now, you filed for protection from the court. You cited in that motion the unusual murder of Seth Rich. Do you think that Seth Rich's death was politically motivated?
I don't know. You're asking me to speculate on the mind of a murderer. I wouldn't know. I don't know who killed Seth Rich.
Well, why did you include Seth Rich in your...
Because he's a witness. He's a potential witness in my case. All I'm saying is 2 potential witnesses in my case.
Sean Lucas was another?
Yes, he was my process server. They both died. Why they died? How they died? I don't know. Okay? I don't know. But 2 of my witnesses, Mr. Lucas was about to provide evidence to the court in this case on service of process when he very, very suddenly passed away. Seth Rich was he was an employee of the DNC, and he was murdered.
Yeah, and to this day, we still don't know what really happened to Seth Rich. Isn't it funny how everyone clammed up? Remember, Rick, even Sean Hannity was reporting on that story, and he got told by the brass at Fox News to drop it, stop talking about it, and he did. Whatever happened to Seth Rich? Whatever happened to all that reward money? There's some $300,000, a big kitty of money. You know, I think WikiLeaks pitched in about $100,000, and others stepped up, and they also pitched in money for a reward for information regarding what happened to Seth Rich. Mm-hmm. And to this day, no one has stepped forward with information. No one has tried to claim that money. And we still don't have answers. And the DC police don't seem very interested in solving that case, Rick.
As I said, this has been the strangest interview, the creepiest, and now the scariest.
Well, it's Halloween. It's Halloween season. Of course, I had to bring in a guest like Elizabeth to talk about some of the weirdest shit that goes on with our government. And I see she popped in for a minute. She got reconnected, and then she disappeared again. I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
Hopefully she'll rejoin us.
Well, I mean, her lawsuit, what she did helped expose the DNC for what it is.
Exactly.
It's just a corrupt front for, I don't know how you want to describe it, just a big political machine that really undermines democracy. They have no business using the word Democrat in their name.
There's nothing democratic about the Democratic Party. And, you know, even though the suit was unfortunately dismissed by a judge who was probably friendly to the Democratic Party, the case was dismissed. But that's okay, because the point was made. And in those court documents, you have Bruce Spiva for the Democratic Party. He was their counsel, I believe, who admitted on the record, and we have it now, and everybody knows the deal. In that case, I believe it was a success, even if the case itself was dismissed and was never properly resolved. In those depositions, in those court documents, they tell you, look, we're a private company. We can do this however the hell we want to do it. And we choose our nominee, not the voters, period. What more do you need to know about the Democratic Party? And that's why Bobby Kennedy had to leave.
Right.
Yeah, he had no choice. We lost Elizabeth Beck. I don't know what happened. If she lost her internet, she tried a couple of times to get back into the studio and couldn't get reconnected. So folks, I do apologize for that. We will have her back, and we will continue this conversation again soon, I hope. But it was a delight having her here. She's so interesting. I think Elizabeth is fearless. She's
firecracker is what she is.
She is, man. She's a badass. Yeah. And yet, I know that she and Jared have suffered a great deal for their courageous stands. That's what happens when you're courageous, when you take on the power structure, when you take on the DNC or Donald Trump or, anybody who represents the power structure. It's going to come back. There's going to be blowback. And they've felt that, they've experienced that, which is why, they don't talk very often. They don't give interviews very much anymore. And I was so pleased that she agreed to come on the show tonight and talk to us. And I only wish that conversation could have continued. But technical difficulties got in the way.
Probably the CIA.
That's what I always say. Yeah. Anytime something goes wrong anymore, I just blame the CIA.
Or Debbie Wasserman Schultz from the DNC was watching, made a quick phone call. she's on social media again. Gotta take her down.
Yeah, she's on that Lori Spencer, Rick Walker show. Take them down.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.